Hello, everyone.
Hi,
I think it's time. Hi, Sanket. Hi, Ankit. I think let's start this.
Everyone.
Right. So thanks to everyone for being here. We actually see that there are a lot of people joining us from across the globe. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It's really great to see such a huge turnout, and it's motivating to know that people are tuning in, despite the current situation. So before we get started, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'll be your host today, and my name is Alexi Antal. I've been working in the data science line for the past 5 years, and I'm currently a customer success manager at BlobCity, right? To set up context for today's webinar, amidst this pandemic, we are witnessing a huge behavioral shift, both for individuals as well as organizations. And on a broad level, the pressing questions on everyone's minds are, how do we solve this right now? And more importantly, how do we also avoid this in the future, right? So today we intended to open up this forum to facilitate a free and open discussion to understand how AI or even technology as a whole is playing a role in helping us address various challenges caused by the COVID-19 situation, right? So we'd like to hear from you, your ideas and suggestions, solutions, and more importantly, if any one of you are currently actively working on using AI to solve the COVID-19 problems, it would be great to hear your thoughts, right? We have a great line of speakers today with Ankit and Sanket, who I'll introduce shortly. But before that, a few call outs and a few quick set of guidelines. So firstly, this is the first time we are having an open discussion webinar. So we have our fingers crossed that this works out fine logistically. In fact, over the last hour or so, I've already encountered 2 power cuts. So I'm hoping, that doesn't happen again, right? And as this is an open discussion, the success obviously lies in each of you, contributing at any point of time that, you feel fit, right? So in terms of technicalities, please use the raise hand feature in your GoToWebinar panel, which is most likely to your right, to ask to indicate that you're interested in asking any questions. And you can also use the questions dialog on the side panel to ask the speakers any questions. I, as a moderator, will be giving you the opportunity, unmuting you when needed, so that you can respond to anything that the speaker answers that the speaker has to your questions, right? And we've kept ample time for Q&A, so at any point of time, if you feel like asking any question, please feel free, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible, right? We will be recording this webinar, and you will receive the copy of the same as and when we are done, and the recording will also be made public for future reference, right? So on that note, again, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll get started by introducing our speakers, right? Our first speaker is Ankit Pal, who is the CEO here at BlobCity. Ankit is an analytics professional and entrepreneur coming from the field of bioinformatics, which is analytics for biology, with over 18 years of experience in building data products and teams. And after working for a number of years in bioinformatics product development, he co-founded 2 startups, Exora Biosciences and Jay Medica Private Limited, in the personalized health tech space. In his last stint before joining BlobCity as a CEO, he was the regional head of Australia for the world's largest pure play data analytics company, which was Mu Sigma, based out of primarily Bangalore. Now at BlobCity, he is responsible for scaling up the current product and service offerings, visualize newer, bolder offerings, and steer the company through, uncharted waters with their latest offering, which is the Cloudbook, right? So thanks a lot, Ankit, for being here. Right. And along with Ankit, we have Sanket Sarang, who is the Chief Technical Officer or Chief of Products, as we like to call him. So Sanket is a prolific programmer and algorithms expert. In fact, he started coding while he was still in school. He has self-published and generated Sudoku books at the age of 19. He's an expert in the big data field, being one of the few professionals in the world with the experience of not just using big data technologies, but also having created one. His experience takes him to designing big data applications and modeling applications across several industry verticals for scalability and performance. And he is also an angel investor and spends time mentoring startups, right? And he looks at this as an exercise to improve his own understanding of scaling business as a founder, And at BlobCity, he is responsible for new product developments and innovations. So thanks,
Thank
Ankit.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'd like to start off with the first question, which was important to address to Ankit with his background in bioinformatics. So Ankit, we've been reading a lot, a lot of us have come across posts in terms of how AI can currently help accelerate, solving this problem, specifically in terms of helping, us find either a treatment or a vaccine, right? And, there are talks about how AI can help accelerate that process. And, we'd like you, or I'd like you to demystify certain, facts, like, is this really possible? If it's possible, what have been previous, your experiences in seeing such a thing succeed, and what do you anticipate, for the discovery of a vaccine using AI?
Sure. Thanks. Good question, Alexi. There are two components here. There's the drug discovery bit, and then there's the vaccine bit. The vaccine is something everyone's talking about, and I think a lot of folks, and obviously I can't see them here, but a lot of folks in this who joined this webinar are hoping a vaccine comes out, so then they can just get, they can actually go out and start working again. But that's possibly not. That's probably not going to happen in the near future. Sorry to disappoint everyone here, but the big wigs in the pharma industry, everyone's really trying hard. It can potentially be a massive money spinner. Not to mention a lot of good that this can do. But 18 months to get a vaccine out, as the newspapers have been talking about, is extremely optimistic in my personal view. It could definitely be accelerated, but there are two components to developing a vaccine. One is the efficacy of a vaccine, how effective it is for this particular disease, and the second is the activity, the immune response that it generates from the body. So when a vaccine is introduced, in the case of a virus, it's essentially a piece of DNA from the virus that is introduced into the person who's being vaccinated, and the immune response from the person takes care of the rest, recognizes it as a viral DNA, and then starts attacking it. The problem is, if this is non-specific, the cells can attack themselves. Now, how AI can come into play over here? So you can have an immune response that will hurt your own body. So what AI could potentially do is that 80% or 86% of the SARS virus that the epidemic that happened in 2015 is very similar to the virus that is out there now, the COVID-19. And because of that, we can assume that there are a lot of similarities between these, and those components, the cellular components which are coded in the DNA. So lots of DNA data is available. Lots of data is available on clinically tested drugs. So and vaccines. So maybe these libraries can be exposed to deep learning algorithms, which can then figure out which one of these would work and which won't work. So there's a whole bunch of ways this can be done. There are massive data sets that have been made public now, including the CORD-19, which a lot of folks in this group potentially know about. These are machine readable data sources, machine readable publications from around the world. So maybe natural language processing algorithms can go through this and figure out patterns which can then be used in accelerating vaccine production. Drug repurposing, a very similar concept. Again, there is a structure in the virus which is the little spike. It's called the coronavirus, if you didn't know, because of the crown it has, those little spiky things. So the spike is the thing that attaches to the human cell and releases the viral genetic material into the human cell and infects it. So there are drugs that can block that action potentially, compete with the virus, bind to the virus. There are drugs that can actually affect the virus's genetic mechanism, which prevents the replication of the virus. So the viral load is reduced, viral load meaning the number of viral particles in the body, while the body's immune system takes over and cures the person, defeats the virus. So there's a lot of things that can be done. I know I'm because of the audience that is here, I am not going very technical. I hope I'm not. But then these are the broad mechanisms by which, and towards the end of this webinar, we'll probably talk more about the repurposing bit. I hope that helps. And I would like to hear more ideas from this audience as well.
Right. So, is there anyone from our current attendee list who's working on something similar or working in the current line who'd like to contribute to this? You can just all you have to do is raise your hand from the right section. So I'll just take that up. Right. So Sanket, will we carry on and just let me know if you can hear me clearly. Just a question to you, so as an introductory question, is while we are understanding that business context is sometimes necessary with the use of AI to answer certain problems, with a majority of workforce increasing in the data science and AI industry, with a lot of people skilled now with industry agnostic knowledge. How do you see that future problems you can leverage this large workforce? How do you think we can go about solving this problem, not reliant on specifically research institutes? How do you think we can facilitate that ecosystem right now?
Yes, so that's a very interesting question to ask, actually, because as a business, clearly no one ever planned for something like this, right? We could not imagine a world where everything is totally shut. We are stranded to our houses, and the roads are empty. Clearly, some things are working on their own, like you are purifying the air, the pollution levels have gone down significantly, right? So we've all been debating for so much time on how do we reduce global warming, how do we reduce pollution, and it just happened on its own, right? And there's nothing we can do, right? It's just worked out on its own. Now, but at the same time, we are actually seeing a lot of revenue dip in certain industries, especially manufacturing and all of that. We've seen who've had to shut down the plants forcefully. In other cases, there have been reduction in sales. So due to reduction in sales, they've had to prevent stock manufacturing. Otherwise, the warehousing cost goes up. So there are a lot of challenges that are there in front of companies, and we're kind of seeing a move towards using AI to do a lot of the work that today humans were doing. And companies, organizations in general want to save on resource expenses, right? They want to save on salaries. Having employees essentially costs you money in salaries. But if you have AI working for you, the cost of AI is essentially very flexible. So they're both sides of it, like a company because of the people that work for it. But at the same time, there's a lot of conversation going on how to automate it. And clearly we can see some industries going up, like digital and all of those, like maybe Zoom meetings, GoToWebinar, GoToMeetings, all of these companies are clearly benefiting from something like this, right? And there are others which may be automobile companies, and all of them, they're actually seeing a massive loss in these current times. So there's a significant shift. And to be honest, like all the companies you're speaking with, including hyperlocal delivery companies, we ask them questions on how are you using AI to actually, do the deliveries better? And the answer we got back is, at this point in time, we're not actually using AI because it will take us several months to build a model, collect data, train it, test it, then actually use it. We don't have the liberty of time right now. People want their supplies and they want them tomorrow. And there is no way we are using AI to optimize it. And the situation, like whatever you plan for today, the situation tomorrow is totally different. So there's a lot of impromptu and gut feeling based decisions that are happening as of now.
Right. And so Sanket, we have a question from Abdul Ganyu. So I'm just going to put him on it. So yeah, hey, Abdul.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Okay. My question is, if we are to look at how we can use AI to tackle COVID-19 problem. Like me as a data scientist, recently I worked with some of my guys. We are trying to develop a dashboard to control the infection of the disease in my country here in Nigeria. But the major problem we have is that we write a memo, a letter, like a proposal to the national disease control in this country, but we couldn't got a reply from them. Just to we are just trying to try our best to design a dashboard where everybody in the country, you are in a remote area, either you are in a rural area or urban area, you should be able to know what is going on and the trend of the disease. And I want to see how BlobCity is going to work and how we as a member, we are going to work along with BlobCity to look at how this problem could be solved.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a question we can take offline, Abdul. So we'll be happy to partner in any way we can to make sure we can build a dashboard which gives everyone more information and insights of the current scenario and the current present context. So thank you very much for that, and we will look forward to working with you. But there are a lot of dashboards out there already, so maybe you can take a look at those and just correct me if I didn't understand the question correctly. So you're looking at creating a dashboard to show the current situation of COVID. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yeah.
So Abdul, I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry. So is there a problem you're facing in terms of access to data, or what sort of help are you looking for? I'm unable to understand.
Okay. The problem I'm having is we are four guys and we are trying to develop a dashboard just to control the outbreak of the disease in Nigeria. And we write a letter, like a memo to the Nigerian Disease Control Center in Abuja, but we couldn't get reply from them. And we don't just want to pick anyhow data from internet, and we really want to work with the data that won't have any issue. But that is what I'm trying to say, that is BlobCity really working in that aspect, just like to have a dashboard or to collect the data where anyone that wants to work and on this COVID-19 by providing solution to COVID-19, can we get data from BlobCity?
Mm-hmm. So okay, we do not have a source of data from the shop, but from what I heard right now, there's an interesting thought there, right? We could essentially use a dashboard to predict the spread of the virus. So that basically means that we can alert the authorities before the next person gets infected or before a locality gets infected. And I know that there are search engines that do this, like Google does this based on what symptoms and medical conditions people search for on Google. Google can know an outbreak before it even happens, because people often search for home remedies for any of the medical conditions. Like you have a headache, you've got a fever, you've got a stomach ache, you're just searching for it, and Google can essentially predict that. So if we have a source in which we can get this information and utilize it to predict where all the spread would go, that would essentially be definitely useful.
Okay.
You could probably write to us for ideas, and someone might, someone would answer that, and maybe we can take it offline. I think that would be better.
Right.
Okay.
Right. What we really want to hear is, let's not discuss some of the implementation challenges. What we really want to discuss is some of the ideas that everyone has here, and more around how artificial intelligence can be used. It could be either for drug discovery, drug use, drug reuse, vaccination, or it could be even for maybe continued proper sanitation, public services, delivery of your essential commodities to home, safe and reliable delivery of commodities. All of these aspects, we want to figure out how we can actually use AI for all of that, and we are open to listening to ideas from everyone.
The success of this webinar is also as much dependent on you as it is on us. And this is, I know most of you have never attended a webinar where people, talk, want you guys to participate and speak. So please do that.
So actually, we have one of our attendees, Mohammed Balushi, who's just actually shared a link with me saying that Saudi Arabia actually already has a great dashboard. So I'm just going to share that on chat to everyone. Maybe, those interested can have a look. You guys can let me know if you get the link over there. Thanks a lot, Mohammed. And I also have another question from Mohammed Amin, I think, which is similar in line. So Mohammed, I'm just going to put you on this. Just give me a second. Yeah, I think you can ask. You should be able to speak now, Mohammed. I think you just have to unmute yourself.
Okay. I'm trying to make some prediction on people who are already infected with coronavirus and predict how many actually from, I think, from 600 who are suspected to be in reanimation services in the hospitals. And what I'm facing right now is that many people are moved urgently from the surveillance to the reanimation services, but without any antecedent, without any symptoms. How can I deal with this particular issue?
Okay, that's a good question, actually. So we ourselves within BlobCity, we have been trying to debate on this, on how can we detect some of these symptoms up front. And I would like to share this. We came out with a concept. We didn't see through on it. We didn't execute it, but we came out with the concept of building an app which you can release out to everyone on all platforms. And essentially, a person has to feed in their symptoms once a day inside the app. And if you receive an elevated response for possible infection cases from within a locality, then you kind of know that there is a high potential for that locality to be infected by the disease. So if you really do have the bandwidth to actually implement this, it might be a good idea to implement an app where everyone can just feed in their symptoms on a daily basis. And if they're totally fine, no fever, no cough, they can just simply mark it saying, I'm totally fine. And that's also a signal. And you should, and we really thought about this a little deeper, they have to feed in this data to see the basically a corona infection score for the locality. So unless they feed the form, they can't see the score, and they can feed the form only once a day. So these are some of the protections that you could essentially add into it. It's just a thought, but.
Sorry, I have a question for you. Why did you not implement it?
It's just
the spot there.
It's just time. There are too many things to do. It's lack of time.
Not just that. There are regulatory authorities that need to participate in it, so it becomes a bit of an issue as well.
That law changes by country to country. So some countries will not allow this. They're saying it's illegal to kind of spread information of the virus, but some countries clearly do allow it. So it depends on which country you're launching the app.
All right. Thanks, Mohammed. So I just want to quickly, stop to just take a quick poll. What we are really interested in understanding is that while we're talking about AI helping us find a solution, it's also important for us to, what is our perception of how long this crisis is going to continue? Because that's how we also factor in what acceleration of the solution means. So I'm just going to take a quick poll. Let me know what you guys think, because there are a lot of, right now I think the pressing question on everyone's mind is not how long the cure or the treatment or vaccine is going to take, but how long the lockdown is going to last. So I think that's the most pressing question right now on people's minds. So in India, we've got a lockdown till at least April 15th right now, but all signs or all rumors state that this should extend. And I think that's probably the right, that should be the right thing to do till this is contained. So I just wanted to understand from people in different locations, how long do you guys think? So I'm going to close that in another 10 seconds.
The
You
question
guys
is not
respond.
really around the lockdown. Yeah, the question is not around the lockdown. The question is more around how long do you think we're going to, we're going to have this infection spreading, and we're going to have to be careful. That's really the question. Right?
Ankit, with your experience in the field, what do you think?
I'm not going to bias the audience. So let's see what people say.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Well, I'm going to close the poll now, but I'm just going to close it right now. So we think around 64% of people feel that it's going to take about 6 months, but we've got a good optimistic set of folks, 32%, who feel that this is going to end in 2 months. So I think I'd fall on the optimistic side of things. I'd want that to happen. But I think personally, even I do think it is going to take for everything to settle down, for us to feel secure and safe to step out. I think 6 months is the time I give it, right? But another question that I do have, Ankit, is I just want to understand that while we're talking about AI and helping organizations, not just for a cure, right? But organizations have taken a hit, and so in the journey of organizations of making their transformation from data science to AI, do you think that the COVID situation has caused a dent, or do you think it has actually helped organizations realize the need for it? Like, because a lot of places would right now take a step back and say, let's go on to the traditional way of doing things to survive this.
So yeah, that is a question that a lot of people are asking themselves, right? There was this poll that I saw. I think a lot of you have seen this viral poll which said, who decides on the digital transformation of your organizations? Is it the CIO, the CEO, or COVID-19? And I do believe it's COVID-19. It has accelerated the need for digital transformation in organizations. We, as an organization, are very fortunate that we can work from anywhere, deploy stuff on the cloud, and and continue business as usual. Not as usual, but yeah, business. But I think COVID-19 is the accelerator. But as Sanket pointed out, we spoke to one of these organizations that is in hyperlocal delivery. It's not going to happen immediately. People are going to start thinking about the solution now, but they probably will take a little while to implement it, because to do a digital transformation of your organization, you'll need people to interact. It can't happen sitting at home. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it in terms of infrastructure, in terms of decision making. I personally don't believe I'm open for a debate with Sanket on this, but I may be a little more traditional, but I do believe that it is going to serve as a stimulus for that, but it may not happen immediately. But I think the case that digital transformation teams worldwide can make is, what if another COVID happens now? What do we do? So we have to accelerate. We need to allocate budgets. We need to start, hiring data science teams. We need to start hiring, more tech teams and automate the things that can be automated.
Understood. All right. Yeah, thanks for that, Ankit. We also have another question.
You have an opinion? Yeah. You look like you have an opinion.
No, not really. So yes, I think the one interesting point you said there was, definitely that for this scenario, we were clearly not prepared, right? It just caught everyone by surprise. But going forward, definitely organizations are going to be more prepared for this whole cultural shift that has happened. So work from home is probably here to stay. Even if COVID is not here to stay, work from home will probably be here to stay. We will be more prepared for something like this happening next time. We've clearly learned from this. The last I checked, I think the last time this happened was like when the Spanish flu broke out, and that was like, way back. That was like 100 years ago. So clearly we were not expecting something like this, and we're not prepared for it. But we are seeing that shift, and organizations will go more digital. They will embrace AI to do a lot of automations. They will rely more on software than resources, than humans doing it. And clearly it's a shift, but it's not something immediate. We don't see that happening in the next 1 or 2 months. It might take a while. So I think some of them have put their hands up. So I'm not sure if they want to contribute. Alex, you might want to take their opinions for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I'm just moved to Saud. Saud, I'm just going to unmute you. I guess you have something to add to this. Hello.
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 Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just want to know that most of the cities that the epidemic has gone and the virus is so much potent, like the Wuhan city and the Qom city of Iran. So the solar has some impact, or it might be a feature that affects the production of viruses and became so more potent. Like I'm here in Quetta in Baluchistan, and we have not that much cases. Like the sea level of this city is above 1700 meter above sea level, the city where I live in. So it might be one feature that affects the production of viruses, potency of viruses.
So it's a hard question to answer. I'll take that, Alexi. It's a hard question to answer because the known facts about this virus are that it obviously spreads human to human through droplets, etc., etc. If you're in contact with people and everything. So there's this other aspect. In the place that you are in, what is the level of testing that's going on? Because it's this. I'll use the fisherman's analogy, right? You have a small net. You're going to catch lesser fish. If you have a large net spread out over a massive area, you're going to catch more fish. So if that amount of testing you're doing is very high, it probably will start bringing up. So you see a lot of these developed nations keep reporting a lot of this because the amount of testing they're doing is really, really high. So maybe 1,000 tests per 100,000 people or something like that. But a country like India is doing much, much lesser. So if you're testing lesser, you'll end up catching lesser folks as well. There may be a lot of fish that get away from because the net doesn't reach them. So I don't know if the weather has anything to do with it. I hope it is, but there's a lot of theories that are going around that when it's really hot, the virus doesn't come. I mean, that doesn't make any sense either. So I'm not really answering your question, but it's just food for thought that maybe the number of cases is lesser because the testing is lesser.
Okay,
So
it's not.
Also, this is more around the AI bit rather than the COVID bit. The medical thing, we can take it offline, but I would prefer we limit these conversations around AI. If this is leading to an AI question, please go ahead with it.
I'll just add an interesting point here that one of the attendees has asked. So Alexander just wrote a message saying, and he's got an interesting view. So he says right now in the Southern Hemisphere, winter just started, right? So they are in the prime season. So even when you're trying to contain the spread, we know that the virus spreads, faster in colder atmospheres. We're still looking at, alternating winters between the northern and the southern hemisphere. So there will clearly be few countries in the southern hemisphere which are going to have winter, and over there it's going to thrive right now. So we have to keep that in mind also when we estimate how long this will last.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna quickly just unmute Alexander if there's anything you quickly want to add to that, because I know you've reached out for the question.
Thank you for giving me. Do you hear me first?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add that in context of having a broader worldwide sense of how this situation expands. So we are looking at just 1.5 million that have the disease now, but we may have tens of millions people having the disease, depending on policies that countries make.
and it can happen overnight. So, well, as from my experience, global companies feel this a lot, like a pressure, because their targets just plummeted down. And I think that all of them are seeing automation as an escape, and they will realize that it has to be done sooner rather than later. But I think that in the near future, they won't have the resources to do that, both manpower and financial. So we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait a bit for. I'm sorry for taking this long. We'll have to wait a bit more for, let's say, targeting companies, starting from the large ones, and then going down. So we'll need somehow of scale down solutions instead of scale up solutions to target the market. That's my opinion. And we see that business verticals that don't have automation in consideration, like automotive industry, are feeling the most pressure from these situations. Thank you.
Sure. Alexander, can you also give a little bit background about yourself on what you do, what you work on?
Well, it's on the edge of AI research. I'm building a new type of AI without backpropagation. So it's kind of the way the neocortex works. And we have a proof of concept at the moment. It should consider context as well as, so it's like a CNN with context recognition.
Got it. Okay.
We are developing it, so I cannot go any further in the moment. It's proof of concept, so
sure,
it will take time.
Absolutely.
Nothing special about COVID-19 in a way of developing product.
Okay, got it. So I'll take this opportunity to mention one thing. So Alexander, you can actually try BlobCity Cloud. I don't think we formally introduced BlobCity as a company. So we give you our AI cloud, which gives you the ability to run your Jupyter notebooks on cloud infrastructure that we provide at as low prices at $49.99 a month. Very predictable rate, unlimited notebook runtimes. And also in support for COVID, we understand that a lot of companies have got displaced from their comfort zone. So we have these distributed teams now working from home. So coordination, team collaboration, collaborative working on data science initiatives has become important. So essentially, we have made all our cloud plans completely free until 30th of June. This is not time for us to make money. This is actually time for us to support the ecosystem and do the little bit we can, and we're trying the best. So anyone out there who needs the infrastructure on the cloud, whether you're addressing COVID problems or just for your day-to-day work, please feel free to use it. We are not going to try and monetize it, at least as of yet.
I want to thank you from the community aspect, but unfortunately, because this is new technology that doesn't rely on any current technology, I cannot use Python in a way. So Jupyter is out of the question. I have to use CUDA, go very industrial, low level. We are achieving some 10 to 50 times efficiency. So maybe you can consider it once we are ready. You can, let's say, with one GPU, how to say it, one GPU can be used by 10 people instead of one at the moment. So you have a profit margin. Thank you, that's all.
Most definitely, Alexander. All the best with your project, what you're working on, and I hope that succeeds.
Thank you very much to all.
So I'm again going to take a quick pause. It's important for us to just quickly go through another poll. And so just give me a second. And so what I want to understand is from our audience here, just want to understand the impact that COVID-19 has really had on your work in industry. I'm not just talking from working from home. That's something that's impacted everyone, but from a core way that your company functions, how has that changed? So I'm just going to launch that poll quickly. And also, while I do that, we do have a few questions, but in the interest of time, we'd like to now take up questions that are a little specific to AI, right? So I do see very interesting questions of how, we can initially, mitigate, risks of the disease, at an earlier stage from its roots, etc., from Aditya. But I think right now, from the people who've raised their hands, it would be great if you could, we could have some AI specific questions. So I can take up anyone's hands, based on whoever's hands are raised. Right. And yeah, so I'm going to give that poll another 10 to 15 seconds. Till then, Shivam, you've been asking a question, I guess, related to NLP. So I'll let you know. I think Sanket would probably take that up. So Shivam Arora. Hello. Yeah, I'm going to close the poll till then. All right. So, I mean, there has been a reduced sales and revenue with 94%, which was something that we expected. But it's interesting to know that there is 6% of people who have seen an increased sales and revenue. Be interesting to
Are
your.
you guys selling masks or sanitizers?
Can you please, the ones who said this, the ones who said increase sales, can you please raise your hands and share how you actually increase?
Yes, that would be very interesting to know.
Because all of us have reduced sales. Like at BlobCity, our revenue has dropped. So it'd be really interesting to know who is making more money.
Shivam, are you on? All right, I think Shivam's currently occupied. Right, I think, yeah. So I don't think anyone's raised their hand, Sanket. So I guess he was selling masks.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
You called him out, Sanket.
Yeah. Probably their trade secrets. They don't want to share their trade secrets. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Shivam's back on. Shivam, I'm just going to give you one more shot. Are you here? Shivam
Hello.
Arora?
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Shivam, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. I have an idea. Basically, today I was going through the data set of code 19. So I just wanna run that idea through you guys. Like that might be a naive idea, but I've never done analysis on medical data. So that idea is like regarding maybe finding the articles that might be relevant for medical researchers, because there are around 47,000 articles. So it's very tough to go through them and analyze it and maybe do some progress towards this direction for the purpose for which the data is released. So the idea is that like maybe can we do some sort of entity extraction on the data? Entities being the maybe the vaccines that have been developed in the past, or maybe the structures of the chemicals that might be the potential candidates to attack the virus. And once we find the correlation between those entities and the virus, or the virus related chemicals, once we find the correlation, then we can run the sentiment analysis on that data, whether that those like vaccines or the entities, they are having a negative effect or a positive effect on the virus, and then maybe narrow down the search.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so when you said sentiment analysis, I didn't understand that bit. Shivam, if you could just elaborate on sentiment analysis, just.
Obviously sentiment analysis will sound a bit silly over there. I'm just saying like there might be mention of, okay, this particular component, this particular chemical is having a negative effect on the virus. It is affecting the virus. It can help us destroy it. So that sort of sentiment analysis we can do.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of approaches you can one thing before you record has you've got all this machine readable information available. You do this NLP on it, and you can find out. You can then you'll have to have your end in mind. For example, if you want to help develop a vaccine, or if you want to help develop a drug, so you want to understand what the target proteins are. A virus has proteins on it, so you can understand protein structure and protein folding. There's enough and more information out there, and in the next 5 minutes we'll probably talk about what we will be doing we have an idea as well. But you can start looking for how a lot of these vaccines or drugs have been developed in the past based on that data. Pull out that information, and then help design drugs on that information. So it could be that there's a needle in this haystack of 47,000 articles, and NLP can help you find that. But the question has to be very clear in your head of what you want to find. You just that I think is going to be the defining. Broadly, in principle, the idea is right, but you will have to gain more context and have the right specific question. Sanket, over to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the you can pretty much use neural networks with a lot of deep learning to understand genetic similarities of known viruses and compare it to this virus, and then kind of try and estimate what type of drugs would work for it. You could essentially do both supervised learning or unsupervised learning. If you really want to do a positive and negative sentiment, that might actually work with unsupervised learning, because I'm not sure we'll have enough data on what has positive impact and negative impact to do a supervised learning approach. So, but it's really an interesting thought process. It's something that we have been thinking about, and I think a little later Ankit will announce some of the initiatives we have been doing in this space to see how we can use AI in drug repurposing or drug discovery and all of those aspects. But I think it's really a good direction you're going with, Shivam. So if some discoveries come out, please do share it with us. We'll be, as BlobCity, we'll be happy to share it with us, and we'll be happy to post it on our social media handles and kind of amplify the reach of some of your discoveries and help take them to certain authorities that we are connected with.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be a little bit more goal oriented so that I can like go in some direction and try this idea out. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Shivam.
So thanks, Shivam. Right, so Sanket, I think before Ankit closes, I think we have one last question again from Aditya. Do we have time to just take that up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we might be a little over time. That's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. But I think Aditya has an interesting question. So I think, Sanket, you might be equipped to take this up. Right. Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Aditya Shukla. Right. Aditya Shukla, we might just.
Yeah. Right. So, so I was wondering how ADME talks would help us improve the rate or increase the rate at which we're trying to find out a solution, a probable solution. And number one. Number two, of all the vaccines that we are testing right now, which are in the human testing phase, can these tends be used to model their outcomes? Can a form of ADME talks again be used on antibody antibody function or method of working be used to model the outcome so that at least some of the load can be reduced?
Yeah, okay. Ankit, do you know the tool, ADME Talks?
So ADME Talks is absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. It's more of a pharmacology, pharmacokinetics kind of thing. So there is now, if you have ADME Talks data on a lot of on existing drugs, right? Now in the end, if you're looking at artificial intelligence, it is a mechanism of learning from a lot of data, which has, I mean, with supervised learning, you've got answers already there. So when you put in an algorithm onto all of this data, which is potentially in the CORD19 data set or whatever. Then I'm just attempting to answer this. I don't have the answer exactly, but the idea would be to use NLP to dig out data on ADME talks, on a bunch of antivirals, potentially anti-malarials, anti-protozoan drugs like chloroquine, which is garnering a lot of attention. And then once this neural network has learned how these drugs behave, then in an ADME talks way, then run it on drug libraries that exist in companies, that exist in the public space, to be able to derive. So the advantage AI has is there are a number of features that AI can see and derive patterns from which normal humans can't. And when it looks at so much of data, maybe in publications, maybe in in clinical drug libraries, maybe in genetic data, it can actually glean information, create a and then look at existing libraries. So that's a broad way that potentially could happen. Okay, I don't know if that's answered your question, but that's something a bunch of companies, including Google, are working on. They're working on I think IBM's Watson is working on an ADME talks kind of algorithm which figured out ADME talks. You might have read about that as well. They have come up with 90 candidates already.
Yes, but I was thinking about maybe there is some way to further reduce it, or perhaps use a similar model for antibody, or sorry, for predicting whether vaccines would, how would vaccines behave, or whether there would be that similarly effective.
Yeah, the concept for vaccine remains the same again, right? Isn't it? I mean, you will have to probably add a genetic component to it, more than just the ADME tox bit. I mean, that is necessary because you want to, in terms of seeing if the vaccine actually is less harmful to us. I mean, that's when this ADME tox part comes in. But you first identify the vaccine based on using AI, and you can run the ADME tox algorithms to kind of predict the vaccine's efficacy and toxicity. So I mean, it's a great idea. Are you working on this? And where are you from?
I'm trying to work on it, but I'm from Varanasi, in India, so it's a place in Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah. So are you actually working on this right now?
I'm trying to work on this. I'm an undergrad, and I'm only I'm a sophomore undergrad, so I'm really
maybe
not that
reach out
efficient
to
yet.
us. Maybe you can reach out to us, and we've got a few data sources that we've been building an idea for a hackathon, which we'll talk about now. And maybe you can probably look at that and start developing a solution out of that. I think it's a pretty good idea.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and one last thing. I'm sorry I'm taking so much time, but since you also have a database addressing systems, perhaps you could deploy, or perhaps you could talk to other companies and deploy a data set that should help hospitals document their images more properly. The biggest problem that Carnegie Mellon researchers, MIT researchers are facing right now is that they just don't have images of which to train their models from. And that's primarily due to lack of confidence or lack of faith, either that or because the imaging modules that are available in hospital management systems such as Siemens' hospital management system, others, are way too expensive. They are the most expensive component, and so hospitals usually don't buy it. So perhaps since AI is the primary focus, and since AI needs to grow, this would be a very interesting way of doing that. A distributed form of learning, either that could be implemented. Again, for that you need to read Max Tegmark's solution, differential artificial intelligence, quite interesting. It's not his idea, but he did work a lot on it. And then there are other things. So perhaps you could do something about that as well.
We do have a database product. Maybe Sanket, you can talk about that.
Yes. So we do have a database, which is a full feature database. It's NoSQL. It stores the widest formats of data that you can ever store. We support 17 different formats of storage. And as you mentioned, we are actually working towards collecting this data and prepping it up and making it readily available for any AI initiatives. That includes having either pre-trained deep learning neural networks through which you could do transfer learning or enhance the learning of these existing networks, or also create basic data repositories that allow you to quickly train some of these models to start with, and then you can enhance it on actual data. So yeah, we are working towards it, but if you can help us, Aditya, in any of these initiatives, we would happily consider to collaborate.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. So thanks a lot, Aditya. So I think Ankit, in the interest of time, I think there's something that you would like to talk about, and we can close it with that. So yeah, do you like to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. This is regarding the we are now in the next 8 to 10 days. We will be launching a hackathon, which is the COVID-19 drug repurposing hackathon. Aditya, maybe we could potentially add the ADME talks component to this. So this, obviously, all of us know is the potentially the largest pandemic we will witness in our lifetimes. And one of the approaches is the vaccine, which optimistically will come out in the next 18 months. But before that, if all of us, many of us know that it takes at least a year, 10 to 12 years for a drug to be fully tested, preclinical, clinical trials to come out into the market. Now, we don't have that kind of time. So there are a bunch of research groups that have been working on repurposing existing drugs, existing antivirals and antimicrobial drugs, coming up with cocktails to actually solve this problem, because it is not a completely, nature repeats itself. So this coronavirus is 86% similar to the SARS virus that existed. So there are components that we understand, there are components that we don't understand. But what if there are these common components which can then be attacked? So we are coming up with these data sets around chemical libraries of existing drugs which have been pre-approved by the FDA. And we would want our community of cloud book users and BlobCity community to actually use this information, understand the genetics. We will provide you with the knowledge. We will have webinars from industry experts, scientists, to talk more about the context and help come up with these cocktails, these potential drugs, effective therapies, which can be deployed in the next 8 to 10 months without extensive testing, because they've been pre-tested. So the advantage is obviously quick time to market. They are safe and effective relatively because they have been tested in the past. And these tailor-made, it could lead to tailor-made combinations for people with underlying health disorders like diabetes and heart disease. And it definitely is cost effective because it can come out right now. So these are the ideas that we've had, and it's the drug repurposing hackathon. We will have, and we've been in talks with a bunch of prestigious institutions in India, and we will have a panel of judges who will judge you on your approach rather than on the efficacy of the product, because unless it is tested in a lab, preclinical trials and clinical trials, we won't know. But we will judge you on the approach, and it will be announced in a publication in the newspapers that we have access to. So that's broadly the idea around the hackathon. I personally believe repurposing the drugs and getting them out to market is probably the fastest way we can tackle and treat this disease. Maybe faster than the vaccine. So I hope this idea makes sense. Please feel free to put your comments in the chat box around this idea, and we will send out this a mailer on the COVID-19 hackathon to all the participants over here.
Correct. So in the event that the vaccine does take several years to make, at least we can use these repurposed drugs to treat anyone who's got the infection and increase the chances of curing them.
Yeah.
So I've also taken the opportunity to actually send a message to everyone on chat. So there's a link, simple link with a type form, like if you would be interested to participate in this hackathon or to partner with us in any capacity, please to fill it up. We will reach out to you separately in that regard.
All right. Thanks, Sanket. Thanks, Ankit. I guess in the interest of time, we can call it an end now. But I'd like to especially thank everyone who's attended and stayed through the entire webinar, but more importantly, contributed. We've heard a lot of interesting ideas today. A lot of it is going to be useful to us as well as the rest of the audience today, right? And we'd really be happy to get in touch with you and like we mentioned, help you through all of this and finding potential solutions. So with the close, I'm just going to have one last poll for everyone else, just for lightening up the mood. Just want to know if everyone's ready or charged up to use your AI skills, irrespective of your domain, irrespective of your expertise. If we can all get our skills together and help solve this problem, maybe Sanket's pessimism of taking a few years for a vaccine could be defeated. Sorry, Sanket. I'm just going to close the poll.
It happens quicker.
Yeah, I hope so, Sanket.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to close the poll. And 100% of people are charged up.
Yeah, lovely group. Thank you. Please reach out to us. We are doing this purely to help the community out.
Yeah,
correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
And do join us at any of our next events or webinars, etc. Love to hear you guys and work with you guys more often. So thanks a lot, everyone, and good morning, good evening, and good night, I guess.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alexi. Thanks, Fug. Bye. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.